being three women doing a sports podcast, women is something we see a lot more emerging in sports. When I think of women in sports, I think of the most elite of the elite right now is the UFC. Like UFC women's divisions are just up to par, if not in some circumstances better than the men. So women's sports is definitely seeing a resurgence, but not only on the field, also off the field. Like you turn on ESPN now, you see a lot more women broadcasters in sports. ESPN has a lot of women like Charlie Arnold, also known as Charlie Caruso, formerly from WWE, or any other of these women like a Doris Burke, a sideline reporter. Are any of these women a giant inspiration to you? Like, talk to me about women in sports off the field as well as on the field.
For me, yes. Some of them are inspirations. So I watch First Take a lot. And Molly Karam, she talks a lot more now. But even like a year ago, 2 years ago, she more so did moderation and made sure that, at the time it was Stephen A. and Max made sure they went to break on time. But the few times that she did speak up, she was just so confident. She always knew that what she was talking about. And just seeing her jump in with two people as emotional and loud as Stephen A. and Max.
Oh my God, like, Stephen A. Smith. Don't even get me started on Stephen A.
I loved it. Like anytime she did speak up and was just like, hold on, I have a point to make. I was like, yes, like I was in my living room clapping, like, you tell him, Molly, you tell him. She's definitely one. Kimberly, I can't think of her last name right now for some reason, and I feel so bad about it. But Kimberly, she's another one on, I want to say it's Martin, and I don't know why it slipped in my mind. I watch her like every day. But she's another one that I like. I like the way that she balances her femininity with her role in sports, because for a long time, it seemed like any female sportscaster, especially if they were like behind the desk, sideline reporters, it was a little bit different, but the women behind the desk were expected to almost like try to match the assertiveness of the guys. And it's like, she's assertive, but she still has this softness about her in her voice and the way that she dresses. And I love the fact that she didn't feel the need to really change. And then lastly, like Mina Kind. Mina Kind is just so smart and always has the witty one-liners. She's just so smart. She's so funny. Like, I love her to death. Her podcast is bomb. Her Twitter feed is bomb. Mina Kind, hands down, is like my favorite woman in sports reporting right now. Love her to death.
She's great on Around the Horn. And someone like Jackie Mack from Boston. Well, I'm actually from Boston, but like Jackie MacMullan was someone I used to watch as a kid or like in high school on Around the Horn, going, God damn, she knows her stuff. And like a lot of Boston sports writers like Bob Ryan and people like that. But Jackie Mack, shout out to Jackie Mack.
Facts.
So I don't have a favorite, but I was gonna say, when I moved to the States, I moved to Colorado and I started college there. And I didn't finish that, but I started broadcasting because I was watching sports with my uncle and there was no women reporters. And it made me want to do broadcasting just to get on the sports and be a reporter. So, but I don't have a favorite really. Like, I just love any woman that's doing that. Like, it's kudos to you.
I mean, they really like, specifically sideline reporters. Sideline reporters get a lot of hate for no reason. Yeah. And like, I am not like a huge social justice warrior or anything like that, but I don't understand the hate. Like I can understand guys like, listen, this is sports is mainly typically a guy thing, and guys like guy things and guys in sports. It's like, it's a little, I guess it's a little, not weird, but it's a little bit, it's like, okay, how much can she really know kind of thing. But like, what are some of the dumbest arguments you've ever heard for just like why women shouldn't be involved in sports? It's just like, this is the conversation we're having. It's just like, I think it's like, who is the one? McNichols for was it Rachel McNichols for basketball?
Rachel Nichols.
Right? Yeah. In like the 90s, and like she just get on there talking to Jordan, and Jordan specifically has stories talking to her, how she favored her and loves her, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just like, I don't understand all the hate they get for no reason.
I don't either. And honestly, the dumbest arguments that I've heard are the arguments where they don't really have a basis. Like a lot of times it's just men saying things like, you know, this is something men should be doing, or women shouldn't be talking about sports, or especially the way that we do it. Like I get comments regularly like, oh, this would be interesting if y'all weren't talking about hot players. And I'm just like, okay, so it's
we're women. What do you mean? I think it'd be a little, like, honestly, I think it'd be a little weird if we weren't saying like, God damn, that Damian Lillard. He's got a great smile. Like, you know, like I do a podcast on wrestling. I'm a straight white male. I say all the time how Roman Reigns is a sexy ass human being, right? And like, there's nothing behind it. It's like he's a gorgeous man. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, gorgeous human being. So it's just like, you're women. Women talk about attractive men. Like, what?
Yeah. But most of the time, honestly, it's just guys being like, you know, women shouldn't be doing it with no explanation. And honestly, those are the dumbest arguments to me, because I feel like even if you have a reason, if you're like just misinformed or ignorant, at least you have a reason. And it might be a dumb reason, but it's even dumber when you just feel away and you feel so strongly that you need to say something, but you haven't even developed an argument. Those are the dumbest comments to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been like, not bullied, but because I always played sports and I was pretty much the only girl. Like I was the only girl in my soccer team. I was the only girl in my indoor soccer team. So it was hard for me to get into it. That's probably why it sucked too, because I never got the ball. I was always benched. Like it was tough. It was really tough. So it's fun to have this now that we can just like bitch about it, and that's just how it is.
I will say the other thing that I hate is when and this has happened to me and other women that I know who work in sports, where they're told like, oh, so you're doing this to get guys, right? And I'm like, especially for podcasters, that is the weirdest thing, because I'm like, this takes a lot of work, a lot of preparation.
Oh my God.
A lot of time goes into preparing, editing, researching, you know, managing social media, making sure that you keep content coming out. And I'm like, you think I'm doing all this to get a dude?
Like
what?
It's like,
or even when I was interning in Nashville, it was like, oh, you're trying to meet one of the players, and I'm like, yes. And I decided to track my entire education around trying to meet a player and get this. I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
So yeah, I'm trying to meet the players to interview them.
Right.
To get a scoop. It's like, yeah, from all the women I've ever talked to, it's just like, I don't need to start a podcast to get laid. All right. It's not that difficult for a girl. If a girl wants to get laid, she'll get laid.
Yes, exactly.
A guy will start a podcast to get laid and it won't work, but they'll do it. They'll do it. All right, so let's move over to the podcast. You mentioned prep. That, my friends, is the end of the clip. If you want to hear the answer to the question I just asked, go to ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com to find the full interview. Or in the YouTube channels, click down below. You'll find it. It's there somewhere. The full interview is up anywhere and everywhere. Check out the Bitches Love Sports podcast, anywhere podcasts can be found, as well as the rest of Ambiguous Podcast Solution with all my other great interviews. Like, share, subscribe. The works. You know how it is. We'll see you next time. Game on.